What's up, guys? No FUMAR here. I'm going to be building you a $300 just get you out on the field PC so that you can watch HD movies, you can play some minor video games, edit some more documents. I do make some budget decisions here instead of opting for better performance options. However, you can take your opinion and go, but really your opinion is it's really important to me. I am struggling a little bit with editing and gameplay. I burned my right hand, so yeah, oh well, shit happens. But anyway, let's go ahead with the build, and we'll get this done relatively quickly.
So the first thing we're going to talk about, like with any build, is the processor that we need because it defines the type of motherboard we're going to need and what type of memory we can use. So we are going to be using the Intel Celeron G1830. This is a LGA 1150 socket type, so it's going to determine the motherboard we need. It clocks in at 2.8 gigahertz and only requires 54 watts for power. Like I said, when you're doing budget builds, I pretty much went for the cheapest I could get while still performing decent performance. You can pick this up for right around $53 on Newegg. It's a great budget CPU for simple things like rendering videos or maybe playing some games. It does not bottleneck you as much as you would think. It is a dual core, so it does well with multitasking and things like that. It does have integrated graphics, which clocks in at 1050 megahertz, so if your video card dies or something like that, it's not going to be the end of the world. You can still get a display out. This does use the Haswell chipset, so it is the newest and greatest, so it should get more than enough done. You cannot overclock this, and it does not have hyperthreading. However, again, we are going for budget, and I know there are definitely other options for AMD, but I personally like Intel, so that's what we're going to use for the processor for this budget build. Now, next after this, we are going to talk about our motherboard. So the motherboard we are going to be using is a Micro ATX MSI H81M-P33 motherboard. This does support our socket type of the LGA 1150. It has two memory slots which we can put in DDR3 1600 MHz RAM with a max supported RAM of 16 gigabytes. You get two slots available. We also have PCI Express 2.0 by 16 and PCI Express 1. It doesn't really matter for PCI 3.0 for our uses, especially since graphics card really don't get affected by backwards compatibility to a 2.0 slot, as well as our graphics card will be using a 2.0 slot anyway. We do have two SATA 3 gigabit a second ports as well as two SATA 6 gigabit a second ports, so that's really going to help out for speed and for our hard drive and anything later down the line, like say you want to add a solid state drive or something like that. We do have two USB 3.0 and four USB 2.0 ports. However, for headers, we do not have a header for the USB 3.0, so we're only going to be able to get a header for the 2.0, but no big deal. Again, it's just a minor issue as far as cabling goes. Generally, when I plug anything into a USB 3.0, it's a larger hard drive and it just sits in the back and I don't need to touch it or move it around or anything. So for the most part, this motherboard is very straightforward. There's nothing too complicated about it. It's going to serve our needs, and it's going to get the job done and then some. This motherboard is also relatively inexpensive, only running us $49 for all the features it packs. So after this motherboard, we are going to go ahead and talk about the graphics card we are going to slide into our build. So the graphics card we are going to be putting into our build is an ASUS GeForce GT610. This uses an NVIDIA GT610 chip, which is clocked at 810 MHz with 48 CUDA cores. It has 1 GB of DDR3 RAM, clocked at 1200 MHz, capable of providing 64 bits. It does have HDMI, D-sub, and DVI, so HDMI is preferably what I would use, but DVI you can get resolutions up to 2560 by 1600. This is fanless, it doesn't tend to overheat, and I've read reviews of people being able to encode high quality video as well as record high quality video like with Fraps or something while maintaining high settings on some older games. Obviously you're not going to be playing Skyrim on ultra 60 frames a second or something like that. However, if you would like to casually game or something, this card will probably get the job done. Remember, this is a budget build. However, this graphics card will do more than enough for us, and it does have a great value. With on Newegg right now, you can get it for $30.99, so $31 for not a half bad graphics card. So after the graphics card, we're going to move on to the memory we're going to throw into our computer. So the memory, we don't have to go into too much detail. We're just going to use a single stick of G.Skill 4GB DDR3 1600 RAM. This does have relatively slow latency as well as good reviews on Newegg. We are going to only stick one stick of memory in so that further down the line, if you have some extra money or want to upgrade your memory, you can stick in another 4GB stick. So you can pick this up on Newegg for $35. Now after the memory, we are going to be winding down a little bit here and we're going to talk about our storage. Again, don't have to go into too much detail about our storage. We're going to be using a Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB hard drive. This is going to plug into one of our two SATA 6GB a second ports, and it's going to fit nicely into our case, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. The difference in price between a 500GB or a 250GB is really almost negligible. You can get it for $59.99 on Newegg. 500GB version is only $5 cheaper at $54.99. So I figured, hey, for $5 for 500 extra gigabytes, you can't really go wrong there. So that's our hard drive storage, and now we are going to move on to our case and power supply. It comes as a combination, so let's move on towards that. The case we're going to be using is going to be a little bit unique in that it comes with a power supply bundled with it. This case is the Rosewill R103A, and it comes with a 350 watt power supply, which should be more than enough for our build. Since we are using a micro ATX build, we will have some extra room inside for some good cable management. It does come with plenty of storage bays, both internal and external, so we won't have too much of an issue if we want to add something like a CD drive in the future or a DVD drive to play some games or load up some software. It does have two USB 2.0 front ports and two audio ports. If you want to plug in a headset or a flash drive and don't want to reach all the way around the back of the case, that's a good option, and it does have room for 3 fans. We are going to be adding some fans here in a second, but if you look here, you can notice that the power supply does mount towards the top of the case, which is, it's not that big of a deal. I'm more of a bottom mount case, but we do get a good deal with this case with the power supply included. It does come out to a total of $39.99. So since we were able to save some money on the case and power supply, we are also going to be getting some fans for added cooling. We are going to be getting 2 MASCOOL 80mm fan cases. We are going to be getting both of them for $10 total, so really I don't think we should cut corners when it comes to cooling or management. You know, you definitely don't want to get anything inside overheating. Remember, our graphics card doesn't have a heat sink on it, so we got to be careful with those things. So this is just an added safety feature. We did save some money with the power supply and case combo, so I figured it was okay to add some fans in there. So that about wraps up this build, and we're going to just go ahead and finalize some things and talk about the overall cost.
There we go, we've officially built our budget PC. Even with a little handicap, we haven't had too much of an issue. The total for this PC comes out to right around $287.92. That's what it currently sits in my Newegg wish list for, so the price is probably going to vary, you know, maybe $10 or $15 plus or minus if there's a deal or something like that. If you do happen to find a better deal for something, or would rather swap out some pieces, maybe swap out the hard drive for a solid state drive, that's an upgrade that I would recommend. I would also recommend possibly picking up a CD or DVD drive, but then again, everything is going digital and, you know, with software and upgrades and things like that, so it might not be all that necessary. So again, these are some budget items. I know you might not agree with them, or you might disagree with some of them, like the processor. Hey, we can get an AMD or something like that. Well, you know, I just like using Intels, and this was a relatively actually quick Intel processor you could get. This is a budget PC, so again, just, you know, this was pretty much the lowest of the low that you could possibly get. But I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you learned some things. I know I certainly did. I got a little bit better at editing some things and some audio management. But stay tuned for more gameplays. I'm going to try and play with my left hand. It's a little difficult, but you get the point. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this low budget PC build, and this is No FUMAR. I will talk to you all later.